Part 21. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 201. When Li Yuan saw this, he grinned and was very satisfied with his results. This was even more satisfying than being slapped in the face while trying to buy a car. It is both physical and psychological comfort. After rebirth, he is young, has unlimited physical strength, recovers quickly, and is almost full of positive buffs. It's not like before I was reborn. Although I had just turned 30, my body had long since collapsed because I often stayed up late, worked overtime, gave up on myself for a period of time, and lacked exercise. If you want to play poker 5 or 6 times in one day, it's simply impossible. The time spent playing poker every time was far less than it is now. When it was around 12 noon, Li Yuan supported Zhong Tingyu and limped to recover in the living room. Little Moon, let's finish lunch later and go take a look at the car. I just bought a sports car for Biwixi yesterday, and naturally I want to buy one for Zhong Tingyu today. When Zhong Tingyu heard this, she nodded shyly, with a happy look on her face. She had a complicated background, and although she was not loved, she was still well informed under the influence of her ears and eyes. Zhong Tingyu looked at Li Yuan affectionately. "Senior, just buy me a mobility scooter. Don't waste it too much." Li Yuan smiled and rubbed her head. "Okay, then buy a mobility scooter worth about 1 million. Zhong Tingyu chuckled, glared at Li Yuan, and snorted, "Senior, I'm talking about a mobility scooter, not $1 million luxury car. Just like Volkswagen, Toyota, Honda, etc. If you want to buy expensive ones, I won't want them. We're going to open a milk tea company right away. We still need a lot of money, so we don't need to waste it on cars. $1 million car is not a luxury car, but it's not $1 million supercar," Li Yuan joked. "But, Little Moon, you really have the temperament of being a boss lady, and now you know how to budget carefully. But when it comes to cars, just listen to me. How can an ordinary scooter match your temperament? Besides, money is meant to be spent. After I buy you a car, we will go look at the house. This house is a bit small now." When Zhong Tingyu heard that Li Yuan wanted to buy a house, she asked doubtfully, "Senior, I think this house is quite good. The location and layout are very nice. Do you want to buy other houses?" "This house can only be considered good, but it is not a luxury house," Li Yuan said with a smile. "I plan to buy another large duplex house, 400 to 500 square meters, which will be our home in the future." When Zhong Tingyu heard "our home," her pretty face turned crimson, her heart was beating fast, and she stared at Li Yuan affectionately without refuting. Li Yuan explained with a smile, "Little Moon, the value of houses in Magic City will soon appreciate in the future. Buying a few more units can be considered a very cost-effective investment. The housing prices in Magic City are now at a low point. After the World Expo in 10 years, they will immediately skyrocketed to an exaggerated level. If I didn't plan to open a milk tea shop, I would have bought dozens of units and become a renter. It would save worry and trouble. I could play poker and collect rent when I have nothing to do, and I would be able to enter retirement life in advance." Zhong Tingyu looked at Li Yuan with a smile. She was also optimistic about the housing prices in Magic City. As one of the top 2 super cities in China, the housing prices in Magic City will definitely be similar to those of other first-class cities in the world in the future, and there is still a lot of room for growth. If you invest in a house now, you will basically make a profit without losing money. Zhong Tingyu suggested with a smile, "Senior, when we open a milk tea shop, we can also invest in some shops. I feel that the shops also have a lot of room for appreciation." Li Yuan rubbed her head. This little head really had some ideas. "Little Moon, we won't discuss business matters today. Now we're going to have dinner, and then I'll buy you a car." Chapter 146. Biwixi's parents arrive, the goddess's exclusive car. Had a simple Western meal at noon. Li Yuan drove Zhong Tingyu in a BMW X6 and drove slowly on the street. Li Yuan had no plan in mind about what car to buy for Zhong Tingyu. He didn't know much about cars. I only know some brands, various configurations, etc., but I basically don't understand them. But it will definitely not be cheaper than Biwaxi's BMW Z4. If you have money, you will be willful. Little Moon, how about we go to the Porsche 4 store and have a look? When Zhong Tingyu heard that she was going to the Porsche 4 store, she quickly shook her head and refused. Senior, just buy a mobility scooter. You really don't need to buy such a good one. At this time, Porsche is not as bad as it will be in 2023. It is everywhere in the streets and alleys, and it is still a relatively high-end luxury car brand. Li Yuan put his big hands on the center console and habitually touched Zhong Tingyu's long legs. Although he was not wearing stockings, he still had a different feeling. Zhong Tingyu rolled her eyes at Li Yuan. Then what brand of car do you like? Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi, Porsche, Ferrari, Maserati, Lamborghini. These cars were of pretty good brands and were considered luxury cars at this time, and BBA could be considered entry-level in 2008. Porsche, Ferrari, and Maserati all have sports cars worth around $1 to $2 million. As for supercars, no matter how expensive they are, of course there are also them. If Zhong Tingyu likes them, he will buy them without hesitation. This perfect goddess has given everything to her, so she naturally loves her even more. If he hadn't owned a Lamborghini given to him by Xiao Yu, Li Yuan himself would have wanted to buy a supercar. Supercars like Lamborghini have great driving experience, appearance, etc., but they are too cool to drive and not as low-key as the BMW X6. Driving a BMW X6 in the big city of Shanghai, there is almost no turning back, and the number is relatively large, so it is safe and concealed. If you drive a Lamborghini supercar and take a beautiful woman like Zhong Tingyu with you, there is a high probability that passers-by will secretly take pictures and even post them online. Zhong Tingyu turned her head and looked at Li Yuan's smiling profile, her heart pounding, and her expression was a little shy. For Li Yuan, she really likes him and doesn't want to mix too much material into it. As for the car, Li Yuan insisted on buying it for her, and after the first New Year's Eve last night, she was willing to accept it. She looked at the BMW logo on the steering wheel of the X6, bit her lip, and smiled gently. Senior, why not choose a BMW, the same brand as your car, and it's a couple's model? After hearing this, Li Yuan trembled and almost spit out a mouthful of blood, and he braked suddenly. Zhong Tingyu looked at Li Yuan in confusion. Senior, what's wrong? Li Yuan looked embarrassed and asked calmly, do you like BMW too? Zhong Tingyu nodded, I don't know much about various car brands. Since your current car is a BMW, I will choose BMW too. It's just right to make a pair. I'm afraid it's not a pair, but three. I should have bought a Mercedes-Benz yesterday. Li Yuan muttered in his heart. He was a little hesitant about whether to go to the BMW 4 Sun store again. If Zhong Tingyu also took a fancy to the BMW Z4 sports car when he went to the 4 Sun store, it would be a bit funny. It just happened to form a sister model with Biwaxi's BMW Z4 and parked together on the Daxia campus. The hostesses of the cars are all her girlfriends. If you think about it seriously, it's actually quite exciting. But if the Shura field really erupts one day, the scene will not be good. It would be good if they could accept each other, although it is unlikely. Li Yuan's mind was full of imagination. He had fantasized about this kind of multi-person poker before, but that could only be done when he went out for fast food. For beautiful women like Zhong Tingyu and Biwaxi, who are also top students from 985 and gave him their first time. He couldn't think of under what circumstances they would agree to play poker together. Li Yuan shook his head calmly and smiled, Xiao Yueliang, BMW doesn't have any good-looking sports cars, and the quality is average. Change to other brands, such as Porsche 911, which I think is very good and more in line with your temperament. Porsche 911 is too expensive, it costs 1 or 2 million, Zhong Tingyu replied. She looked at Li Yuan with doubtful eyes. When she was looking at cars in the dormitory yesterday, she clearly remembered that BMW had a Z4 model, which was a convertible sports car. It was pretty good and in line with her aesthetics. The price was around 600,000 or 700,000, much cheaper than Porsche and Ferrari. Hee, senior, if you really want to buy me a sports car, I think the BMW Z4 is not bad. Li Yuan's heart skipped a beat. He even suspected that Zhong Tingyu and Bai Wuxi had colluded. Why did they both choose the BMW Z4? It was understandable that Bai Wuxi chose the BMW Z4 because he took her there on his own initiative. But what happened to Zhong Tingyu? I said I would buy you a better looking and more expensive Porsche 911, but you refused. Zhong Tingyu looked at Li Yuan in silence and smiled playfully. Senior, don't you like the BMW Z4? You can change to other cars. I can do anything. Li Yuan looked at Zhong Tingyu deeply and asked, Xiao Yu, do you really like the BMW Z4 and not the Porsche? I want to hear the truth. Don't worry about the price. Buy the car you like. Zhong Tingyu looked hesitant. As a girl, who doesn't like the more famous Porsche? She was about to speak when she was blocked by Li Yuan. Little Moon, you have to listen to me today. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 202. Let's go see Porsche first. After saying that, Li Yuan drove directly to the Porsche 4 store. It is said on the internet that for every Porsche sold, there will be one less female Porsche salesperson. As soon as Li Yuan and Zhong Tingyu walked in hand, a female salesperson wearing a professional black short skirt, with a nice figure, a beautiful face, and a very sexy and mature face came to greet the two of them. Li Tingting looked at Li Yuan and Zhong Tingyu with a strange look in her eyes. As salespeople at the Porsche 4 store, many of the customers they have seen are middle-aged men and young beauties. Like Li Yuan and Zhong Tingyu, they are very young and look like college students. It is very rare. This is the first time she has seen them since she became a Porsche salesperson. Li Tingting smiled professionally. Handsome guy, beautiful girl, welcome to Porsche, do you have a favorite model? This is the first time Li Yuan has visited a Porsche 4 store in his 2 lives. He was not as excited and nervous as he imagined, but very calm. This may be the strong confidence brought by having billions of wealth. Money is a man's courage and backbone. He held Zhong Tingyu's hand and came to a white Porsche. Please introduce this car to me. Li Tingting's expression moved. Like her, she had long trained a pair of sharp eyes and could see Li Yuan's extraordinary confidence. Handsome guy, beautiful girl, this is a Porsche 911. This is the 6th generation of Porsche 911 produced by Porsche. The body appearance has become more smooth and simple, with classic round headlights, and 2 small lights added under the front ghost face headlights. There are 2 displacement models, among which Carrera uses a 325 horsepower 3.6L engine, and Carrera S uses a 355 horsepower 3.8L engine. Handsome guy, beautiful girl, our Porsche company can provide test ride services, you too can go in and experience it? Li Yuan was confused, he didn't understand these at all. Looking at Zhong Tingyu, he smiled and said, Tingyu, do you like this car? Do you want to try it? Zhong Tingyu looked at this very good-looking sports car, and was very excited and hesitant. Even the young masters and young ladies of her father's family may not have such a sports car at her age. Looking at Li Yuan with beautiful eyes, Zhong Tingyu nodded with a thumping heart at Li Yuan's smiling and supportive eyes. Li Tingting was even more surprised, and couldn't help but look at Li Yuan deeply. Such a tall, handsome, young, and rich second-generation rich man is rare. Please follow me, and do a test drive registration first. When Li Yuan accompanied Zhong Tingyu to buy a car, Bai Wuxi had already taken a taxi to the Motu bus terminal to pick up Motu to visit her parents. I should have bought a normal car earlier, why buy a two-seater sports car? It's not very useful except for its good looks, Bai Wuxi kept muttering in his heart. After a while, Bai Tiankai and Yang Jinyu came out of the station, and soon saw their daughter standing in the crowd following the direction of the pedestrians' eyes. Bai Wuxi also saw her parents and hurriedly smiled and greeted them. Dad, Mom, I miss you so much. Bai Wuxi rushed over and gave them a big hug, with tears in her eyes. This was the first time she had been away from her parents for such a long time since she was a child. Yang Jinyu touched Bai Wuxi's face lovingly, and felt a little sad when she saw that she was about to cry. Baby, don't cry, you are so old. Bai Tiankai also felt sorry for his precious daughter, and asked hurriedly, Zixi, have you been living well in college for more than a month? How are you getting along with your roommates? Have they bullied you? Is the living expenses enough? The consumption in a city as big as Shanghai is very high. Can you get used to the food here? Bai Wuxi wiped her tears, her nose was a little sour, and she shook her head. Dad, Mom, my roommates are all very nice to me. Life is okay, I'm used to it. You haven't eaten yet, I'll take you to eat first. Bai Tiankai rubbed his baby daughter's head, it seems that you have lost some weight recently. Let's go, Dad will treat you and your mother to a big meal. Bai Wuxi walked in the middle, holding Bai Tiankai and Yang Jinyu's arms with her left and right hands, with a happy smile on her face. Okay, Mom and Dad, I've been hungry for a long time. Mom and Dad, what do you want to eat? The family of three came to Longjia building and chose to eat hot pot. While eating, Yang Jinyu's eyes were sharp and noticed that Bai Wuxi's mobile phone screen had changed the screensaver, which seemed to be a photo of her daughter and a boy. She felt a little nervous and looked at her daughter who was bathed in spring light. She secretly guessed that her daughter would not fall in love just 1 month after entering college. As a mother who married from the south to a small county in the north, her concern for her only daughter was all round, and she always gave her a correct view of love. She didn't want her daughter, who she had devoted all her love and care to be as love-minded as she was, and to risk her life for love. Yang Jinyu asked tentatively without any expression, Baby, are there any male classmates chasing you in college? Bai Wuxi's chopsticks that were picking up the tripe trembled and fell directly into the pot. She suddenly became nervous and nodded shyly at her mother Yang Jinyu's gaze. Yang Jinyu's heart sank when she saw her daughter like this. She glanced at her phone's screensaver and had a premonition that something might be wrong. Her daughter seemed to be in love. Baby, are you in love? Bai Tiankai was also startled after hearing this. He looked at his precious daughter nervously, fearing that she would nod and admit it. The worst thing still happened. Bai Wuxi nodded shyly without any hesitation. Yeah. Bai Tiankai's eyes went dark, his body trembled, and his heart suddenly felt a little painful, as if he had suddenly lost the most important thing. Fortunately, he was sitting on a bench to eat. If he was standing now, he might have fallen down directly. Bai Tiankai resisted the urge to get angry and stared at Bai Wuxi. He had always held this precious daughter in his hands for fear of falling and in his mouth for fear of melting. His precious daughter has always been very well behaved and obedient, and her academic performance has always been very good. Who would have thought that the cabbage he had carefully cared for 18 years, who had just entered college, would be taken away by a pig? Who can understand the mood of an old father who is a daughter slave? He now wants to kill the brat who ate his cabbage. Bai Tiankai was about to explode with anger, staring at Bai Wuxi seriously and scolding angrily. Bai Wuxi, you just went to college, only a month, Do you know him well, and you start dating? What did I teach you? You don't listen to me when you go to college, right? Baiwixi was shocked by Bai Tiankai's serious tone. This was the second time she was called by her name directly by her father since she was a child. The last time her father got angry was when she was in elementary school and accidentally broke a set of porcelain she treasured. Baiwixi's tears flowed down, and she felt very wronged in her heart. Yang Jinyu saw that her baby daughter was scared and cried by Bai Tiankai, and immediately turned around and scolded Bai Tiankai without asking about the relationship. Bao Tiankai, can't you just talk properly? Why are you so mad? Hurry up and apologize to the baby. When Bai Tiankai saw his baby daughter crying, he immediately regretted it. He was indeed a little too impulsive just now. Baby, Daddy is wrong. Daddy shouldn't be mean to you. Baby, don't cry. Baiwixi wiped her tears and looked at her parents very aggrieved. She couldn't understand why they reacted so strongly when it was normal for her to fall in love in college. Yang Jinyu tried to smooth things over and spoke earnestly. Baby, your dad is angry because he is worried about you. You just went to college and don't know anything. It's easy to be deceived. Tell your mother about the boy's situation, how did you meet him, and what stage has the conversation reached now? After Yang Jinyu finished speaking, she secretly winked at Bai Tiankai, signaling him not to say anything more. Baiwixi bit her lip, feeling very nervous. She didn't know how her parents would react after hearing this. If they knew that she had been living with Li Yuan, would they be even angrier? Baiwixi stammered, I've known him for a long time. We were high school classmates. Yang Jinyu and Bai Tiankai were both stunned. High school classmate, one of the two boys who came to school with you. Bai Tiankai and Yang Jin frowned when they thought of their daughter's decision not to ask for leave when school started, and chose to come to Shanghai with her classmates. It suddenly dawned on them that it was no wonder they didn't have to send them to school. But when Yang Jinyu thought of the two boys she met that day, she was very dissatisfied. She didn't want her daughter to find a boyfriend from a small county in her hometown, and she had always told her to find a local in Shanghai or a nearby big city when she went to college. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 203. Besides, which of those two boys, in terms of appearance, figure, and family, can match my precious daughter? Ordinary university, ordinary height, ordinary family, and from a small place. If it weren't for the fact that her daughter just cried, Yang Jinyu would have wanted to scold her. What kind of vision do you have? Even if your mother is in love, your father was also a tall and handsome man when he was young, otherwise how could he have given birth to a little beauty like you? Unexpectedly, you are really blind. Yang Jinyu's face was very ugly, with frowns, staring at her shy and nervous daughter, waiting for her explanation. She now has a lot of opinions, ready to burst out. Baiwixi saw that her parents had misunderstood, and hurriedly explained shyly. No, it's my high school desk mate. He and I went to the same school and were admitted to Daxia University, majoring in computer science. Hearing that it was not those two boys, Yang Jinyu and Bai Tiankai were relieved at the same time. It's good that it's not, it's good that it's not, there is still hope. She said, how could her daughter have such bad taste? Yang Jinyu noticed the high school desk mate her daughter mentioned, looked at her daughter in surprise, and then thought about the fact that they confirmed their relationship just 1 month after arriving at the university. Doesn't this mean that her daughter was in love in high school? Her voice suddenly became a few notes higher. Baby, you and your high school desk mate, did you date in high school? Bai Tiankai's face was already very ugly, gloomy, ready to get angry again at any time. Bai Wuxi nodded and shook her head, biting her lip, and explained nervously. He pursued me in high school, and I also had a good impression of him. We were classmates for 3 years in high school and deskmates for 2 years. He often tutored my studies, and we promoted each other. Without him, I couldn't get into Daxia University. We officially confirmed our relationship when we were in college. Bai Tiankai raised his eyebrows, frowned at his nervous baby daughter, and sighed in his heart. When his daughter talked about their relationship just now, the happy and sweet expression on her face was seen at a glance. Being classmates for 3 years in high school and sitting at the same table for 2 years, this is incredible. As a junior high school teacher, he knows too well that if two people don't have a good impression of each other, it is impossible to be sitting at the same table for so long. No wonder, when he went to a parent-teacher meeting, his daughter's head teacher hinted that he should pay more attention to children and prevent them from falling in love too early. However, his daughter's grades have been steadily improving, and he dared not say anything. She goes home on time every day after school, and she doesn't want to have a secret relationship. At this point, Yang Jinyu frowned, looked at the screensaver of Bai Wuxi's phone, and asked, "What's the name of that boy? Do you have a photo for me?" Bai Wei shyly opened the phone, found a photo of Li Yuan alone, and carefully gave it to Yang Jinyu. "Mom, his name is Li Yuan." Yang Jinyu took the phone and looked at Li Yuan in the picture, her eyes lit up. He is very tall, with fair skin and a handsome face. Judging from his appearance alone, he is also a handsome guy, the type that can attract girls. He sighed in his heart. No wonder his daughter was attracted to him. He had good grades, was tall, and was handsome. They were classmates and deskmates, and they were admitted to the same university. If they were not together, she would be a little strange. Bai Tiankai also leaned over and looked at Li Yuan seriously, and his frown loosened a little. Just looking at his appearance and body shape, he was somewhat similar to him when he was young. He was admitted to Daxia University, and his academic qualifications would not be too bad. He should be able to find a good job in the future. He was also his daughter's high school classmate, and he knew everything about him. He was quite satisfied in his heart. Yang Jinyu returned the phone to Bai Wuxi, looked at his precious daughter, and replied indifferently. He's quite tall, and his appearance and education are also okay. By the way, baby, what is Li Yuan's family situation? How many people are there in his family? What do his parents do? Where is his hometown? Mom, why are you asking so much, like you're interrogating a prisoner? Bai Wuxi was speechless. She knew a little about Li Yuan's family situation. She knew that Li Yuan's hometown was in a town below, and he had a younger sister. His parents should be working outside. Yang Jinyu said lightly, "Baby, Mom asked these questions for your consideration. I hope you will stay in the Magic City and settle down in the future. The housing prices in the Magic City are so expensive, and the consumption is also high. If the man's family is not well off, you may not be happy in the future." Bai Tiankai coughed, and always felt that Yang Jinyu was referring to something. "Ahem, wife, it's good for two people to struggle together." When Yang Jinyu heard the word struggle, she became anxious and started to output at Bai Tiankai. "Struggle, you sound nice. Can some things be achieved through struggle? The housing prices in Shanghai are so expensive. Even in a slightly better location, it costs 10,000 or 20,000 yuan per square meter. Even if you only buy a 3-bedroom, 1 living room, and 1 bathroom house, it will cost 1 or 2 million yuan. With just the two of them, how many years of struggle will it take to afford a house in Shanghai? Do they have to go back to that small county town in the countryside like me? Or, Bai Tiankai, do you have the ability to buy a house in Shanghai for your precious daughter?" Bai Tiankai's face was burning. When it came to this, the two often quarreled. This kind of situation always happens when the family is not suitable. He knew very well that although Yang Jinyu loved him and this family, she was born in a developed area and looked down on ordinary people in small places from the bottom of her heart. Settling in the big city of Shanghai, returning home in glory, and making her family regret it has become her obsession. Bai Tiankai looked at the angry Yang Jinyu and closed his mouth decisively. In fact, what she said was right and he agreed with her. But as a man, he was disgusted from the bottom of his heart. Bai Wuxi saw that his parents were going to quarrel again like before, looked at them weakly and replied. Dad, Mom, Li Yuan has bought a house in Shanghai. Chapter 147 Li Yuan, Jianghu is in an emergency, my father-in-law is going to chop me with a knife. Yang Jinyu and Bai Tiankai were stunned for a while after hearing their daughter say that Li Yuan had bought a house in Shanghai. She just talked for a long time with dry mouth and earnest words, how important the house in Shanghai is, how expensive it is. Her feelings were all wasted. Yang Jinyu widened her eyes, with an unbelievable look, and hurriedly asked about the situation. Baby, has Li Yuan's family really bought a house in Shanghai? Yes, they have already bought it. Bai Wuxi nodded seriously. Seeing her mother's shocked expression, she didn't know why she felt very happy. When she was in high school, her mother often told her that she must go to Shanghai, buy a house and settle down there, and leave this small county town. She always said how great a big city like Shanghai is, which is 10,000 times better than a shabby small county town. By hearing and seeing, her heart has been branded, and she has made up her mind to go to Shanghai to study, settle down there in the future, and then bring her parents over. Not only for herself, but also for her mother who has always loved her very much, so that her mother can raise her head at her grandmother's house and restore the relationship. Seeing her daughter's very affirmative answer, Yang Jinyu smiled on her face, and suddenly felt very satisfied with Li Yuan, her future son-in-law. He is tall and handsome. He is a high school classmate of my daughter and was admitted to the same university. His family is also well off and can buy a house in Shanghai. He almost meets all her expectations for her future son-in-law. Yang Jinyu smiled confidently and said, Baby, it seems that Li Yuan's family situation is not bad. His parents should be in business or officials. Bai Wuxi thought about the scene he saw in the college entrance examination. Judging from the way Li Yuan's parents were dressed, it was impossible for them to be officials or businessmen. The house was also bought by Li Yuan with his own royalties. Bai Tiankai's face, which had been gloomy and tense, also relaxed a lot, and a hint of smile appeared on his face. Although he was still very sad that his precious daughter, whom he had raised for 18 years, was taken away, fortunately, the pig that took away the cabbage was of good quality and barely met his requirements. If his daughter's boyfriend was a non-mainstream guy like the yellow-haired, Shamit, etc. that he often saw in school, he would be so angry that he would go to the door with a knife and kill the other party. Who can understand the mood of an old father who is a daughter slave? This daughter is naturally beautiful, well-behaved, and cute, and has excellent grades. From childhood to adulthood, she has satisfied all his fantasies about his daughter. Bai Wuxi hesitated in her heart, not knowing whether to tell her parents that Li Yuan had bought her a car. A sports car that costs more than 700,000 yuan, will it scare them? That's for sure. My parents haven't been willing to buy a car until now. They came to see her early in the morning and took a long-distance bus. Not to mention my parents, even now, she still feels like she is dreaming, a little unreal. Living in a house of more than 160 square meters and driving a convertible sports car worth more than 700,000 yuan. Yang Jinyu saw her baby daughter looking like she wanted to say something but hesitated, and couldn't help asking curiously. Baby, do you have anything to say? If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 204. Bai Wuxi glanced at her parents and suddenly thought that the better Li Yuan treated her, the happier and more satisfied her parents would be, and they would not stop her from being with Li Yuan. In that case, if her parents found out that she was living with Li Yuan, they might be less angry. Bai Wuxi decided to tell the truth. Well, actually, Li Yuan bought me a car. Buy you a car? Bai Tiankai and Yang Jinyu were shocked again. Yang Jinyu's tone was trembling, and her voice was much higher, staring at Bai Wuxi seriously. Baby, what did you just say? Li Yuan also bought you a car? Yes, I just bought it yesterday. Bai Wuxi smiled and nodded. Her mother Yang Jinyu's reaction was within her expectations. Bai Tiankai also muttered in shock, you just went to college, what can you do with a car? Even if his family has some money, they shouldn't waste it like this. Bai Tiankai, don't talk if you don't know how to talk. Li Yuan treats our Zixi well, and you are still not satisfied. Yang Jinyu glared at her husband, thinking that she had been married to him for 20 years and gave him such an obedient, sensible, beautiful, and well-behaved baby girl, but she had nothing, so she couldn't help but snorted coldly and mocked. I have been with you for most of my life, and I haven't seen you willing to buy me a car. Bai Tiankai touched his nose awkwardly. He only earned 2,000 yuan a month, and he didn't do business or open a cram school. If he wanted to buy a car that cost at least 80,000 or 90,000 yuan, he would have to save for a long time without eating or drinking. And the salary of the couple, after deducting the expenses of favors, food, clothing, housing, and transportation, plus the fact that they often enrolled their daughter in various training classes, bought pianos, guitars, etc., there was not much left. His wife Yang Jinyu was born in a big city and has a high pursuit of quality of life. After Yang Jinyu taught her husband a lesson, she looked at Bai Wuxi excitedly. Baby, what car did Li Yuan buy for you? Is it a domestic car, or a foreign car like Volkswagen, Hyundai, Honda, etc.? Mom, it's a BMW. Bai Wuxi opened her pearly teeth slightly, and her voice became much brighter. BMW, Yang Jinyu widened her eyes, wondering if she had heard it wrong, and asked again. Baby, is the car Li Yuan bought for you really a BMW? Yeah. Bai Wuxi still didn't have the nerve to tell them the truth that it was a sports car. Yang Jinyu looked shocked. In her mind, BMW and Mercedes-Benz are synonymous with luxury cars, and each one costs at least 300,000 or 400,000 yuan. According to her salary, she can't afford it even if she works for 10 years without eating or drinking. Such a luxury car, her daughter's boyfriend actually bought it directly for her? Buying a house and a car in Shanghai, my precious daughter has a good vision, much better than I did at that time. I only saw Bai Tiankai's appearance, and did not ask for financial conditions. Foolish love brain, sad for a lifetime. Bai Tiankai heard that Li Yuan had bought a BMW for his precious daughter, and looked at his daughter with a worried look on his face. Others have bought her a car, this silly girl, could it be that she has been taken advantage of by the other party? He was secretly angry in his heart and wanted to say something, but when the words came to his lips, he couldn't ask. Two young people, in college, are in love. When they are deeply in love, they will definitely be unable to help those things. He can't think of how to avoid it. He is not an old stubborn person who sticks to the old ways, but he suddenly feels blocked in his heart. He is happy for his daughter to find an excellent and reliable boyfriend, but he is also worried about her. His daughter is only 18 years old. How much can she understand about love? He is afraid that she will be hurt in this relationship. That Li Yuan obviously has a very good family background, and must be a second generation. If he plays with his daughter's feelings. Thinking of this, Bai Tiankai frowned even more tightly, and his eyebrows were condensed into a river shape. He secretly made up his mind that if the other party dared to abandon him, he would risk his life to seek justice for his precious daughter. Yang Jinyu glanced at her shy daughter and thought of this in her heart. Since Li Yuan has bought a car for her daughter, the relationship must be extraordinary. They are in the same school, and they may have accidentally started a relationship, or even live together. Yang Jinyu took Bai Wuxi's hand and asked with concern, "Baby, how far is your relationship with Li Yuan?" Bai Wuxi's pretty face turned red, and quickly from her face to her neck, so red that blood could drip out. She was very nervous and her tone was a little incoherent. "Mom, what are you talking about?" Yang Jinyu is an experienced person. Looking at her daughter's expression, she guessed the truth of the matter and gave her earnest advice. "Baby, Li Yuan has bought you a car, which means he cares about you very much. It's normal for young people like you to have something happen when you are in love. But, baby, you must remember what your mother said, you must protect yourself, okay? Don't be so casual, men will not cherish it once they get it easily. Not to mention those rich men." Bai Wuxi lowered her head shyly, feeling a little confused, not knowing what her mother meant. Bai Tiankai reminded awkwardly, "Ahem, wife, you two can discuss this privately in the evening. Let's eat first, the hot pot here tastes pretty good." Bai Wuxi breathed a sigh of relief and made a face at Bai Tiankai with gratitude. She never expected that confessing the fact that she was in love to her parents would be so terrible, making her heart so nervous that she almost jumped out of her body. While eating hot pot, Yang Jinyu asked some more about things in school, such as whether he could eat well, whether he missed home, whether the courses were difficult, who were the people in the dormitory, and whether the relationship was good. "Baby, after dinner, you take me and your dad to visit your school. Your Daxia University is a key university, so the school environment should be pretty good." Bai Wuxi smiled and hugged Yang Jinyu's arm and acted coquettishly. "Mom, our school is a century-old school with great scenery. There is a water bar, library, Xiao Island, Liver River, statues of great men. If you go, you will not be disappointed. Then let's wait until we finish eating and go now." Yang Jinyu touched her daughter's hair. She also missed her daughter very much and couldn't feel relieved. So she immediately came to Shanghai to visit her daughter during the National Day holiday. "By the way, take a look at the car Li Yuan bought for you, and take me and your dad for a ride." "Haha, I have never sat in a car bought by your dad in this life, but I have sat in my precious daughter's BMW first." Bai Wuxi looked at the excited Yang Jinyu, and the regret in her heart became stronger. Why did she buy a two-seater sports car? It was not convenient at all. She replied weakly, "Well, I'm afraid I can't take you and my dad for a ride." Yang Jinyu asked doubtfully, "Why?" "The car was driven away by Li Yuan." Bai Wuxi replied weakly, "Mom, no, because my car is a sports car with only 2 seats and can only accommodate 2 people. There are 3 people in our family." "Did you buy a sports car?" Yang Jinyu was shocked again. His eyes widened and his voice was so high that other customers in the store couldn't help but look over. Bai Wuxi said in a low voice, dumbfounded, "Mom, please keep your voice down, there are still people around." Yang Jinyu also realized that her reaction was a bit too big, and quickly asked, "Haha, tell me quickly, what is going on? Aren't BMWs all cars and SUVs? Are there also sports cars? Besides, aren't sports cars very expensive? One costs millions." Bai Tiankai also looked at his daughter with the same expression. He could still accept a BMW worth 300 to 400,000, but if he bought a sports car worth millions. Bai Wuxi's face was a little hot, and he explained hesitantly, "Mom, BMW also has a sports car called the BMW Z4, which is a 2-seater convertible sports car." BMW Z4, or a convertible, Yang Jinyu's eyes lit up, and she had strong expectations in her heart, wanting to give it a try. Although her parents' family is near the city and is considered a city dweller, their family situation is only middle class. There are Mercedes-Benz and BMWs, but there are really no sports cars. Baby, this sports car shouldn't be cheap, right? Baiwixi nodded and replied weakly, well, it will cost more than 700,000 yuan. Yang Jinyu exclaimed again, what, more than 700,000? Why did you buy such an expensive car? Baiwixi replied in a low voice, I didn't want it, Li Yuan insisted on buying it, and I couldn't stop him. Yang Jinyu pinched her little face and already marked this future son-in-law with 100 points in her heart. Where can I find such a young, handsome, and generous son-in-law with a lot of money? If he were 20 years younger, she would also want to try it. Yang Jinyu suddenly thought of something, pretended to be casual, and said casually, by the way, baby, whose name is written on the car? Mom, what happened to my name? Baiwixi asked doubtfully. It's okay, just ask. Although Yang Jinyu said this, the bright smile on his face was clearly visible. If you just buy a sports car worth more than 700,000 yuan and write your daughter's name on it, you don't need to go through the test anymore. You are 100% sincere to your daughter. Old Bai, have you eaten yet? Bai Tiankai nodded, well, it's ready. Yang Jinyu smiled excitedly and said, let's go and try out 1111's sports car. By the way, baby, you just got your driver's license during the summer vacation. Can you drive it? Bai Wei smiled sweetly and replied, Mom, I can drive. Li Yuan practiced driving with me for a long time yesterday. After saying that, she thought a little shyly about the scene that happened in the basement, and her pretty face was filled with blush again. At the Porsche 4 Sun shop, Li Yuan didn't know that Baiwixi's parents had suddenly arrived. His mother-in-law had a pretty good impression of him, but his father-in-law wanted to kill him. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 205. At this time, he and Zhong Tingyu had already tried out this Porsche 911. After some experience, the driving performance was indeed quite good, much better than the performance of the BMW Z4. Of course, the price is also much more expensive. You can buy 2 or 3 BMW Z4s. After the options, it will cost about 1.8 million. This is only the most common 3.6L version, not the top version, nor is it a limited edition. After Zhong Tingyu heard the price reported by Li Tingting, she pulled Li Yuan's arm and whispered in his ear. Senior, this is too expensive. I can buy a house in Shanghai with full payment. Let's buy another car. Mercedes-Benz or BMW will do. Li Yuan rubbed her head, gave her a smiling look, and answered domineeringly in a very doting tone. Little Moon, you have to be obedient. If I tell you to buy it for you, I will buy it for you. Give me your ID. Zhong Tingyu asked doubtfully, why do you need my ID card? Li Yuan smiled and said, just give it to me. Oh, Zhong Tingyu took out her ID card from the Chanel bag Li Yuan gave her yesterday. Li Yuan took the ID card and took a serious look at it. Zhong Tingyu on the ID card is very elegant and graceful. Even the ID photo is breathtakingly beautiful. He handed his ID card to Li Tingting and said with a smile, Manager Li, the car is registered in my girlfriend's name. Li Tingting glanced at Li Yuan in surprise. Her favorable impression of Li Yuan in her heart had reached an extreme level. Not only is he young and handsome, but more importantly, he is very generous. He gave a sports car worth nearly 2 million to his girlfriend directly. It is really given to her, not given to her. There is a world of difference between the two. She has seen many rich people give sports cars to their girlfriends to drive when they are passionately in love. When they get tired of playing with them, they just kick them away and the sports cars are still theirs. It's really rare to see someone as generous and straightforward as the rich and handsome man in front of him, who directly buys a sports car for his girlfriend. Li Tingting used her peripheral vision to glance at Zhong Tingyu, who was standing next to Li Yuan and had a very pretty face. She was the most beautiful and elegant girl she had ever seen since she started selling Porsches. If it weren't for this beautiful girl by her side, she would also like to have an in-depth exchange of physiological experiences with Li Yuan. Suppressing the distracting thoughts in her heart, Li Tingting said with emotion, "Mr. Li, you are so kind to your girlfriend." Li Yuan smiled, hugged Zhong Tingyu's waist, and said with a smile, "Isn't it right to be nice to your girlfriend?" Zhong Tingyu's beautiful eyes were full of affection, and Li Yuan's figure was all in her mind. At this moment, she felt that she was the happiest girl in the world. After paying the payment and completing the registration, you still have to wait a few hours if you want to take delivery of the car. Fortunately, in the Porsche flagship store in a big city like Shanghai, this ordinary Porsche 911 is still available, so there is no need to wait for dozens of days. After Zhong Tingyu signed, while others were not paying attention, she hugged Li Yuan's arm, gave Li Yuan a kiss, and looked at Li Yuan lovingly. "Senior, thank you." The corners of Li Yuan's mouth raised slightly, looking at Zhong Tingyu's beautiful face, the desire to move in his heart emerged again. "Little Moon, if you really want to thank me, how about another way?" Zhong Tingyu blinked and asked with a smile, "In what way?" Li Yuan chuckled, leaned into her ear and whispered, "I want to experience the shock absorption performance of the Porsche 911 with you in the car." After Zhong Tingyu heard Li Yuan's request, her face instantly turned crimson. "Senior, you're a big pervert, you just know how to bully me." Li Yuan rubbed Zhong Tingyu's soft and smooth hands. Her hands were very long, slender, and white and flawless. They could be used as hand molds and were particularly comfortable to use. "Little Moon, do you agree?" "I want it." Zhong Tingyu met Li Yuan's expectant gaze and nodded shyly. "Little Moon, you are so good. Come on, let me give you a kiss." Li Yuan laughed, feeling very excited. He also wanted to try the shock absorption performance of Porsche 911 and BMW X6 with Zhong Tingyu. Based on the battle last night, it should be very exciting. On the other side, Bai Wuxi originally wanted to take her parents to the school for a walk. As a result, after the incident with the sports car, at Yang Jinyu's strong request, I decided to try the sports car first. A family of 3 took a taxi and arrived at Feiakuofu community. Feiakuofu community is also a high-end community, with good greening and property management, and even a row of townhouses. Seeing their daughter entering the community with ease, Yang Jinyu and Bai Tiankai looked at each other and determined in their hearts that their precious daughter might have really gone to that extent with Li Yuan. Yang Jinyu coughed lightly, held Bai Wuxi's hand, and asked, "Baby, is the house Li Yuan bought in this community?" Bai Wuxi nodded, "Yeah, it's the building on my right." Yang Jinyu looked at this building carefully. There were only 12 floors in total. Looking at the large glass balcony, they should all be large units. After hesitating for a moment, Yang Jinyu asked tentatively, "Baby, is Li Yuan at home?" Bai Wuxi shook his head, "His company has something to do, and he may not be back until very late today." Tian Tian asked in surprise, "The company is run by his family?" "Dad, I'm not sure. It's probably not his family's." Bai Wuxi didn't know what Li Yuan was busy with every day at the company, so she didn't ask much. Bai Tiankai said lightly, and reminded, "Zixi, you should pay more attention to Li Yuan and understand his family's situation." "Don't be silly." "I know, Dad." Bai Wuxi smiled and nodded. Yang Jinyu asked again, "Baby, does Li Yuan's family live here?" Bai Wuxi was confused, but still patiently explained, "Uncle and aunt are not in the magic city. Only Li Yuan and I live here." Bai Wuxi's voice weakened as she spoke. She secretly glanced at her parents and saw that they didn't seem to hear it, so she secretly breathed a sigh of relief. She was ready to face her parents' rebuke and explain. Yang Jinyu and Bai Tiankai looked at each other and smiled helplessly. Li Yuan gave their precious daughter a sports car worth more than 700,000 yuan. If the two didn't have a relationship, no one would believe it. Isn't this obvious? They are just too embarrassed to mention it again. Baby, do you have the key to the house? I want to take a look. Key, Bai Wuxi was stunned and quickly replied, the room is locked with a password. Mom, are you going to see the house? Not the car. Yang Jinyu smiled and said, let's take a look at the house first, and then the car. Oh, Bai Wuxi nodded, feeling a little nervous. What should I do if my parents see signs of the two living together after entering the house? Bai Wuxi muttered in his heart, there is no way. Things have already happened. At most, they can criticize me a few words. Mom and Dad, come with me. The elevators in this community are one elevator per household, and they are very hidden. The house Li Yuan bought is on the east side, on the 9th floor. Bai Wuxi skillfully entered her birthday on the password lock. This was modified by Li Yuan after he confirmed his relationship with him. Mom and Dad, come in. Yang Jinyu and Bai Tiankai followed into the room nervously, and saw a pair of men's slippers and two pairs of women's slippers on the shoe cabinet in the corridor. Sure enough, my daughter and Li Yuan are already living together. The couple looked at each other, turned their eyes calmly, and looked at the layout of the house. Bai Wuxi poured juice for the two nervously. Dad, Mom, drink some juice. Put it there first, I'm not thirsty. Yang Jinyu was more and more surprised. This house was much better than she imagined, with a large living room, a huge balcony, and a whole piece of glass windows. Yang Jinyu looked around and was very satisfied with this house. Baby, this house is pretty good. It should be quite large. It must have cost a lot of money. Bai Wuxi nervously introduced, Mom, this house seems to be more than 160 square meters, with 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a kitchen. I don't know exactly how much it cost. 160 square meters, that's quite big, much bigger than the house your uncle bought in Shanghai. Yang Jinyu sighed. Bai Wuxi asked in confusion, Mom, my uncle. Yang Jinyu looked embarrassed. There were some things at home that she didn't tell Bai Wuxi for fear of affecting her daughter's studies. She had a very unhappy quarrel with her biological parents because of marriage problems, and the father-daughter relationship was almost severed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 206. But she still has a good relationship with her two brothers. They have always kept in touch with each other since childhood. Your uncle bought a house in Shanghai 2 years ago and settled here. I'll take you to meet him in 2 days. Bai Wuxi nodded, not showing much joy or expectation. She was not familiar with her grandma's family. Yang Jinyu looked at her daughter, who was in a daze, and suddenly asked, Baby, does your name appear on the property deed of this house? Ahem. Bai Tiankai coughed quickly and glared at Yang Jinyu. This question was a bit inappropriate. Yang Jinyu rolled her eyes at Bai Tiankai. We are a family of 3. I just want to ask 1111 what's wrong. Bai Wuxi didn't understand what her mother meant by asking. When Li Yuan bought this house, she had not yet confirmed her relationship with Li Yuan. Bai Wuxi explained, Mom, I only confirmed my relationship with Li Yuan after I went to college. I bought this house before school started. Yang Jinyu understood. Although he was a little regretful, he didn't say much. Being able to buy his daughter a sports car worth more than 700,000 yuan is enough to prove Li Yuan's sincerity. It would be even more satisfying if my daughter's name was added to the house. Yang Jinyu thought of the fact that her daughter was already living with Li Yuan, and couldn't help but admonish. Baby, Mom doesn't object to you and Li Yuan being together, but you haven't graduated yet. Don't get tired of being together all the time. You have to be appropriately careful. If you live together now, there will definitely be friction in the future. If you have a quarrel, it will affect your relationship. Baiwixi blushed heavily, pinched the corners of his clothes tightly, his body trembled slightly, and explained in a voice like a mosquito. Mom, I understand, I usually live in the dormitory. Only weekends, and occasionally I come here to stay for 2 days. Yang Jinyu sighed in her heart. Her precious daughter was good at everything, very well behaved and obedient, but a little sentimental, with the same personality as Bai Tiankai. Baby, just understand the importance. Remember, you must pay attention to safety measures. Bai Wuxi nodded shyly. After she and Li Yuan got together, they played poker so many times, but Li Yuan didn't even wear it. Then let's go down and see your sports car. In the underground parking garage, when Bai Tiankai and Yang Jinyu looked at the brand new BMW Z4 sports car, they immediately fell in love with it. They walked around the sports car, looking left and right, and were amazed. Yang Jinyu sat in the cab, touched the steering wheel, opened the roof, imagined what it would be like to drive a convertible sports car, and said with emotion, "No wonder young people nowadays like sports cars. This kind of appearance is really good looking." Bai Wuxi smiled and suggested thoughtfully, "Mom, let me take you for a ride." Yang Jinyu decisively agreed, "Okay, your mother and I have never ridden in a sports car in my life. This time I want to take advantage of my precious daughter and give it a try." After saying that, he looked at Bai Tiankai again. "Old Bai, the sports car only has 2 seats. Just wait for us at the gate of the community. After I try it out first, I will let 1111 take you for a ride." Okay, Bai Tiankai looked like this. 1111, drive slower and be careful not to hit him. Bai Wuxi was really nervous. When she drove back yesterday, she felt relieved that Li Yuan was by her side. Now my mother, who cannot drive, is sitting next to me, and she is really a little scared. After dilly-dallying for a while, Bai Wuxi drove the sports car out of the parking garage cautiously and at the speed of a tortoise. Yang Jinyu was sitting in the passenger seat, feeling the attention of pedestrians and vehicles passing by, with excitement on her face. "Baby, this sports car is really cool to drive, and some people are secretly taking pictures of us. It's just a bit impractical. It can only seat 2 people. Your dad can only wait at the gate of the community." Bai Wuxi drove nervously at a very slow speed. She was a beautiful woman and drove a sports car. The passing cars did not honk their horns or curse like crazy. "Mom, I didn't want it at the time, but Li Yuan insisted on buying it for me, and something special happened when I was buying the car." Bai Wuxi wanted to laugh when she thought about the scene when she bought a car yesterday. The middle-aged man's expression and face at that time were really funny. "Oh, what happened?" Yang Jinyu asked curiously. Bai Wuxi smiled and explained the general situation. "Mom, the situation is like this." After hearing this, Yang Jinyu smiled and was not surprised by this. Discrimination of all kinds has always existed, and this is normal. It's not uncommon for rich people to keep their mistresses, 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 and mistresses. She was shrewd and noticed Li Yuan's style and strength in her daughter's mouth. It is true that he is very good to his precious daughter, but his personality is probably very domineering and not easy to get along with. This made her a little worried, fearing that her daughter would be offended in the future. Rich families will have more rules, and parents and relatives will have much higher requirements for their daughters-in-law. Fortunately, my daughter is beautiful enough and good enough. Baby, Li Yuan spent nearly 2 million on just buying a car yesterday. Do you really have no idea what his family does? Bai Wuxi glanced at Yang Jinyu hesitantly, and explained in a low voice, "Mom, Li Yuan's money should be all earned by himself. I saw his parents from a distance once during the college entrance examination. I asked Li Yuan a few days ago, and he told me that his uncles and aunts had gone back to their hometown to build houses. When Yang Jinyu heard that Li Yuan made all the money himself, he was shocked and didn't believe it at all. 11. Li Yuan is about the same age as you. How could he earn millions? Just this house and 2 BMWs must cost 4 to 5 million. Bai Wuxi explained with a smile on his face, talking about Li Yuan's amazing deeds. Mom, Li Yuan wrote an online novel during the summer vacation, and it became popular online and made a lot of money. Listening to Bai Wuxi's introduction, Yang Jinyu was stunned and his eyes widened with an expression of disbelief. I thought my daughter's boyfriend was a second-generation rich man, but I never expected that he turned out to be a self-made rich man and an online writer who made a lot of money with his talent. Compared with the simple second generation of rich people, this is an unknown improvement, and their status in Yang Jinyu's heart is completely different. After all, men who make a fortune on their own merits are more worthy of being appreciated and respected than second-generation men who rely solely on their parents. They are not on the same level at all. Yang Jinyu was extremely satisfied with her future son-in-law, and a strong idea arose in her heart. She looked at Bai Wuxi and said seriously, "Baby, this Li Yuan is really good. Tell him, your dad and I want to meet him." Bai Wuxi replied at a loss, "Mom, why do you want to see Li Yuan? This is a bit too sudden." Yang Jinyu smiled, "What's the point? As a mother, I can't meet my future son-in-law." Okay, Bai Wuxi nodded shyly. She also wanted her other half to be recognized by her parents. If that were the case, there would no longer be any obstacles to the relationship between two people. "Mom, I'll call Li Yuan later and ask if he can come back." On the other side, after mentioning the new Porsche 911 sports car, he taught Zhong Tingyu how to drive for a while. In the underground garage of a shopping mall, Li Yuan and Zhong Tingyu were playing poker in their newly purchased Porsche 911. Little Moon is a greedy little goblin whose body is as soft as a bone. Even in the small space of a sports car, she can play different cards. Little Moon's poker skills were still very raw at the beginning, but under Li Yuan's guidance, she quickly unlocked a variety of new card skills, and even fought back and forth with Li Yuan in a short period of time. If he hadn't been through the battlefield for a long time and come back again with greatly enhanced physical fitness, he might not be a match for this charming little goblin. From last night to now, after playing poker several times in a row, Li Yuan can easily hold the Little Moon. While going to the toilet, Li Yuan looked at his phone and realized that Bai Wuxi had made many calls and sent several messages. "Brother, pick up the phone. There's something I want to ask your opinion on." "Brother, are you busy again? Why don't you answer the phone or reply to messages?" "Husband, let me tell you something. My parents came to Shanghai today. They know about you and me and want to meet you. Husband, call me immediately after you see the news. I will take my parents for a walk around the school. In the evening, if you are free, my parents would like to have dinner with you." Li Yuan flipped through the message from Bai Wuxi and almost spit out a mouthful of blood. In fact, the news sent by Bai Wuxi really shocked him. "What the hell, Bai Wuxi's parents want to see me? Could it be that they knew about my love affair with their precious daughter? Jian, who is in an emergency. My father-in-law knows that I am cheating on his precious daughter and wants to see me. What should I do? Will he be stabbed directly?" A New Year's letter to book friends. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 207. A New Year's letter to book friends. Dear readers, Happy New Year, and I wish you all a Happy New Year in advance. I wish all readers a great success, a great fortune in the new year, and everything goes well. Let's talk about this book through Kidian's New Year activities. 1. There is feedback from readers that there are too few career lines. How should I put this? People don't like to read about the career line. As a newbie, it is very difficult to write it, so I wrote it roughly. I will write more in the future based on the feedback from readers. 2. Why is Baiwixi the heroine? Wouldn't it be better to just give up? Well, the author is an ordinary person, and the protagonist in the book is also an ordinary person. Bai Yueguang, who has been chasing for 7 years, could have been together, but because of the inferiority complex deep inside the protagonist, they were not together, and they were deeply hurt. I think it should be difficult to forget. If it were me, I would remember it for a lifetime. As for whether it will be washed away, I don't want to spoil it too much. I just want to say that no one is perfect, and people will always change. 3. Are 4 heroines too many? Is it much? Not much. Each heroine has her own personality traits, and the protagonist's mentality is constantly changing. An ordinary person is reborn. After suddenly becoming rich, the mentality of many beauties around him changes. 4. How to make the Shura field round? Stay tuned. Chapter 148. Bai Yueguang's parents raise an army to investigate, and Li Yuan goes to the Hungmen banquet. Li Yuan was shocked by the message sent by Baiwixi. He was confused and had no idea what was going on. Why did Baiwixi's parents suddenly come to Shanghai? Not only did she know about herself and Baiwixi, but she actually wanted to see him. The mood that was originally very comfortable suddenly changed suddenly, and my heart was in my throat, pounding, and I was a little overwhelmed. As Baiwixi's desk mate for 2 years, he had met Baiwixi's parents. Baiwixi's appearance and figure follow that of her father. Her father is tall and somewhat handsome, otherwise he would not have given birth to such a beautiful daughter. It makes sense for a son to follow his mother and a daughter to follow her father. Li Yuan was shocked. He looked at the text message sent by Baiwixi on his phone and didn't know how to reply for a while. After thinking about it, since Baiwixi's parents already knew about the relationship between the two, Baiwixi told herself that unless she stopped contacting Baiwixi in the future, she still had to go and see her. Li Yuan dialed Baiwixi's phone number. As soon as the call was dialed, Baiwixi immediately spoke out. Li Yuan, where are you? Did you see the message I sent you? Li Yuan replied, I saw it, Xiaobai. My uncle and aunt are coming to Shanghai. Why didn't you tell me in advance? Baiwixi thought Li Yuan was angry and quickly explained, my parents just told me this morning. I want to tell you today. You are not around, and I didn't know they wanted to see you. Li Yuan paused and asked again, then where are you now? Baiwixi looked at her parents in the living room and whispered, we are at home now. Li Yuan was even more surprised. There was something wrong with Baiwixi. He was too courageous. You just take your parents home, and they don't know for sure that we are living together. Is that okay? They only have a precious daughter like you, who picks you up after school every day. You are so precious. If you had known that you would have already been taxed by yourself when you first entered college. Li Yuan's whole body trembled. He always felt that this was a dragon's pond and a tiger's den, with endless murderous intent waiting for him inside. Xiaobai, are your parents planning a Hungmen banquet? What's their attitude? Are they very angry and want to skin me? Especially your dad's. How is he feeling? Baiwixi pursed her lips and snickered, then snorted, no way, my parents are very satisfied with you. Xiaobai, you didn't lie to me, did you? My uncle and aunt are really satisfied with me. Humph, you stinky Li Yuan, you don't believe me, do you? Believe it, you must believe it. Aren't I scared? After all, it's the first time I'm meeting my parents, and it's still under such circumstances. My parents are really satisfied with you, don't worry. That's good, that's good. Li Yuan breathed a sigh of relief, he felt a little guilty. Not long after Baiwixi came of age, just 1 month into college, he got his first blood. Putting herself in her shoes, if Baiwixi were her daughter, she would feel as uncomfortable as eating a lump of soybean. Well, Xiaobai, please wait for me for a while. I have something else to do here. I'll go over there after I finish it. Yeah, we'll wait for you at home. After hanging up the phone, Li Yuan patted his chest, with a gloomy expression on his face, and glanced at the garage. Zhong Tingyu was still waiting for him in the car. Li Yuan murmured in his heart, "Tonight I can only feel sorry for Little Moon." After adjusting his mood, Li Yuan got in the car and saw that Zhong Tingyu was a little tired and was taking a nap with his arms folded. He rubbed Zhong Tingyu's head. "Little Moon, wake up." Zhong Tingyu opened her eyes in confusion and looked at Li Yuan. "Senior, I seem to have fallen asleep. Look at how tired you are." Li Yuan touched her head lovingly. Zhong Tingyu wanted to play poker with her today and exchange card skills, but she was exhausted. How could she, a little girl who had just experienced human affairs, withstand repeated hardships? She was already exhausted. Zhong Tingyu blushed, rolled her eyes at Li Yuan, hugged his arm, and hummed, "Senior, where are we going at night?" Li Yuan thought to himself, where else to go, to meet your best friend and play poker with her. "Little Moon, I suddenly have something to do tonight and I can't accompany you anymore. 2 author friends came to see me. I have a good relationship with them. I will go and meet them for a while." "Little Moon, aren't you angry?" When Zhong Tingyu heard this, she felt a little disappointed, but she didn't say anything. Li Yuan has been with him all day. Moreover, the two played poker 5 more times, and she couldn't bear it. Her body was in great pain, but she was just trying to endure it. Zhong Tingyu smiled sweetly and snorted, "Senior, am I so stingy? You go about your business, I'll go back to the dormitory first." Li Yuan felt relieved. He seemed to be making up excuses faster and faster, and he was becoming more and more proficient. "Go back to the dormitory? Why don't you go back home?" Zhong Tingyu glanced at Li Yuan shyly. "I'd better go back to the dormitory first. Last night was a bit unexpected and I didn't bring anything with me. I want to go back and change my clothes and bring some toiletries." Li Yuan thought to himself, "Yes. That's fine. If nothing happens, I will accompany you to the mall in the evening and get everything ready. By the way, Little Moon, can you drive back by yourself?" Zhong Tingyu bit her lip, nodded confidently, and said, "Don't worry, Senior, I can do it. This car is easy to drive. My mother also has a car. I have practiced it since I got my driver's license, and I drove it well just now." Li Yuan thought the same thing. Zhong Tingyu's driving skills were much better than Baiwixi's. There should be no problem driving back to school. He smiled and said, "Okay, then you can drive back to school. I'll drive up first." Li Yuan stood on the roadside and watched Zhong Tingyu slowly drive away in a Porsche 911. After Zhong Tingyu left, Li Yuan frowned and thought about what gifts he should buy. Don't be surprised if you give gifts to many people, and don't hit the smiling person with your hand. Even if they get angry again, considering the gift you gave me, it shouldn't make you look too bad. After thinking about it, Li Yuan drove to a nearby shopping mall to buy some gifts. "I don't know what Xiaobai's parents like. This is our first meeting, so let's buy some expensive gifts. Men wear watches and women love bags, so let's buy a brand name watch and a bag respectively." Li Yuan came to an LV store in the mall and asked, "Beauty, do you have any bags suitable for middle-aged women?" The female LV store clerk looked at Li Yuan in surprise. She looked like a college student. Why would she ask a middle-aged woman about her bag? Could it be that this handsome and stylish guy in front of me is being kept by a rich woman? It's also possible that the handsome guy in front of him has very well-developed muscles, and he should be the one that the rich woman likes. Handsome boy, may I ask, what is the skin color and figure of the person you want to send? Li Yuan was stunned and couldn't figure out why he was asking this. After thinking about it carefully, Bai Wuxi's mother is of medium height, with fair skin, neither fat nor thin, relatively plump. Listening to Li Yuan's embarrassing general description, the female clerk took out an off-white classic bag. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 208. Handsome guy, this is our new autumn bag from LV, suitable for mature women. Li Yuan took a look and felt that it was quite suitable. He didn't know anything about bags anyway. What about the price? The female counter girl smiled professionally and said, this bag is a new model and costs 19,800 yuan. You are a new customer and I can give you a 10% discount. Li Yuan nodded, and just as he was about to pay and leave, he asked again. Is there any bag suitable for a girl about my age? The female counter sister was stunned and her eyes were a little surprised. Did she guess wrong? The other party didn't buy a bag for a rich woman, but gave it to an elder? The female counter sister took out another pure white bag. The color and appearance were very bright. Handsome guy, yes, this one is also new for autumn, full of girly atmosphere. Li Yuan just took one look and felt that Bai Wuxi was very suitable for him. What's the price of this bag? The female clerk's heart trembled slightly. With her fiery eyes, looking at Li Yuan's tone and demeanor, she knew that the other party definitely had financial resources and would not let her talk in vain. Handsome guy, this bag only costs 16,800 yuan, and you can get a 10% discount. Li Yuan nodded, okay, wrap both of them up for me. The female clerk was overjoyed, and the smile on her face became even bigger. Handsome boy, please wait a moment, I will wrap it up for you right now. A total of 32,940, how do you pay? Li Yuan took out a bank card coolly and said, swipe the card. After buying gifts for his mother-in-law and Bai Wuxi respectively, Li Yuan went to the mall and found a Rolex store. Compared with LV bags, Rolex watches are much more expensive. The cheapest one costs 48,000 yuan, and the more expensive one costs hundreds of thousands. Li Yuan doesn't care about watches. In his previous life, he didn't like wearing watches either. Of course, the main reason is that he can't afford those brand name watches. It would be a shame not to wear an ordinary watch worth several thousand yuan. Li Yuan looked around and selected a gold Rolex watch priced at 148,000 yuan. At this price, in 2008, he could already buy a joint venture car. However, Li Yuan didn't feel bad. In the afternoon, he spent 1.8 million yuan for Zhong Tingyu. For Bai Wuxi and her parents, more than 100,000 yuan was spent, just a drop of money. Wrap this watch for me. Carrying 2 LV bags and a gold Rolex watch, Li Yuan left the mall with satisfaction. He went to a famous wine store and picked up a box of Maotai and a Huazi. Tonight, whether this hangmen banquet can be settled and we can come out safely will probably depend on them. Li Yuan murmured in his heart. I've done it to this extent. Even if you are dissatisfied with me, you won't kill me. On the other side, Bai Tiankai and Yang Jinyu were a little nervous when they learned that Li Yuan was on the way. It was also the first time that they met their daughter's boyfriend, and they met under such circumstances. Yang Jinyu sat next to Bai Tiankai and whispered, Old Bai, why am I suddenly a little nervous? Bai Tiankixin said, it sounds like I'm not nervous. He patted Yang Jinyu on the shoulder and said with a smile, it's okay, I just have a simple meal, see how the child Li Yuan is doing, and keep a check on 1111. Yang Jinyu frowned slightly, to put it lightly, Li Yuan and 1111 already have that kind of relationship, and they will most likely be our son-in-law in the future. Tell me, this is the first time we meet, do you want to give him a red envelope? Bai Tiankai looked at Yang Jinyu speechlessly. Are you sure you want to give red envelopes to people who make millions a month? It's not impossible to pack a bag, but how much is appropriate? If it's more, we don't have that much money. If it's less, the other party may not be interested. In my opinion, it's just a simple meal, there's no need to pay so much attention to it. Yang Jinyu snorted and was too lazy to talk to Bai Qi. What does a big man know? She was thinking about how to get along with her son-in-law when she met her for the first time. Bai Wuxi lay on the balcony, looking out the window, eagerly waiting for Li Yuan to come back. When she saw Li Yuan's car parked downstairs, she quickly waved excitedly towards Li Yuan. Dad, Mom, Li Yuan is back. I'll go down to pick him up. Yang Jinyu stood up suddenly, his expression became serious, and said, then you go. Bai Wuxi nodded, put on his shoes, and ran off in a hurry. Seeing her daughter's appearance, Yang Jinyu said speechlessly, old Bai, our precious daughter's heart is tied to Li Yuan. Wait a minute, don't make a fool of yourself at Li Yuan, it will make him look bad. Bai Tiankai frowned, when did I say I wanted to make him look bad? Yang Jinyu sneered, I still don't understand the thoughts of you slave girls. 1111 has a boyfriend and is living with Li Yuan. You must feel very uncomfortable and want to beat him up, right? When Bai Tiankai was told what he was thinking, he was speechless. He sighed in his heart and looked at Yang Jinyu, how did you know? Yang Jinyu rolled her eyes at him and sneered, because, at that time, my dad really wanted to kill you. I shuddered during the day, and memories like nightmares came to my mind. Downstairs, Li Yuan parked the car and saw Bai Wuxi running towards him. When he came up, he gave him a big hug. Husband, you are finally back. I miss you so much. Li Yuan hugged Bai Wuxi, feeling the pressure in front of him, rubbed her head, and said with a smile, Uncle and Aunt are upstairs. Bai Wuxi shrugged her nose, she seemed to smell a familiar smell from Li Yuan, the smell was very light. However, she didn't think much about it, and said with a smile, well, my parents are waiting for you upstairs. Li Yuan took out a box of Maotai and a pack of Huazi from the trunk. Xiaobai, does your dad drink? How much does he drink? Bai Wuxi saw Li Yuan moving out a box of wine and cigarettes, frowned and said, husband, what are you doing? You don't want to get my dad drunk, do you? Li Yuan smiled, he really had this idea, anyway, he had a good alcohol tolerance before rebirth, and after rebirth, his alcohol tolerance increased greatly, and ordinary people could not drink more than him. Xiaobai, this is our first meeting. If your dad wants to drink, I will risk my life to accompany him. Bai Wuxi chuckled, stepped forward and hugged Li Yuan's arm, helped him hold the cigarette, and pursed her lips, honey, my dad doesn't seem to drink much, and his alcohol tolerance is not very good. Okay, then I'm relieved. Li Yuan's eyes lit up and he calmed down a lot. After that, Li Yuan took out 2 bags and a watch and handed them to Bai Wuxi. Xiaobai, this is a gift I bought for my uncle and aunt, you take it first. Bai Wuxi took the tightly wrapped LV bag and Rolex watch, and her face was full of joy. Although she didn't understand bags and watches, she didn't even recognize the LV and Rolex logos. But Li Yuan's willingness to buy gifts for his parents was enough to prove that Li Yuan valued her. Looking at Li Yuan, her eyes were full of affection. She hugged Li Yuan's neck and kissed him on the face. Hubby, thank you. Li Yuan chuckled, if you want to write me, thank me before you go to bed at night. Bai Wuxi's face turned red instantly, humph, stinky Li Yuan, annoying. Li Yuan smiled, hee, Xiaobai, let's go, I'm a little nervous. Bai Wuxi pursed her lips and chuckled, I'm more nervous than you. Next time something like this happens, tell me in advance so I can be prepared. Hubby, hee, you're well prepared, and you even know to buy gifts for my parents. They will definitely be very happy. I hope so. As he went up the stairs, Li Yuan's body was straight, his heart was pounding, and his expression became nervous again. The moment he opened the elevator door, Li Yuan looked inside and saw a middle-aged couple waiting at the door. Bai Wuxi's father was about 1.8 meters tall. Although he was over 40 years old, it can still be seen that he must have been very handsome. At this time, he looked at himself expressionlessly, with almost no smile on his face. As for Bai Wuxi's mother, she was about 1.63 meters tall, wearing high heels and off-white trousers, still charming, and looked like she was born in a big city. Li Yuan hurriedly greeted, "Uncle and Aunt, hello." Bai Tiankai's eyes stayed on the box of Maotai that Li Yuan was holding for a moment, and the coldness in the corners of his eyes weakened a lot. This child still has some color. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 209. Yang Jinyu's eyes stayed on Li Yuan. Watching him on the phone was completely different from watching him in person. In her eyes, Li Yuan was half a head taller than her husband. He was about 1.85 or 86 meters tall. His appearance was also very good. He looked very masculine and handsome. He was a perfect match with her daughter. Not bad. Good. Li Yuan, I seem to have seen you before. Li Yuan smiled faintly and answered, I have also met my uncle and aunt. Yang Jinyu smiled and said, Oh, when have you seen me and your uncle Bai? Li Yuan calmed down and replied with a generous smile, Auntie, Xiao Bai and I were roommates for a long time in high school. When I was chasing her, I would silently follow her every day, watching you and uncle take Xiao Bai home. I used to think that it would be great if I could have a chance to talk to my uncle and aunt, but I was timid at that time and Xiao Bai didn't agree to my promise. Today I suddenly heard that my uncle and aunt came to Shanghai and wanted to see me. To tell you the truth, I was actually very nervous. When Yang Jinyu listened to Li Yuan's description of his high school experience, he suddenly became more interested. With a smile on his face, he looked at Li Yuan with more and more approval. Li Yuan, uncle and aunt are not unkind, so don't be nervous. I would also like to thank you for helping 1111 with her homework when she was in high school. Li Yuan answered modestly, Auntie, Xiao Bai actually tutors me most of the time. My English score is relatively poor. Yang Jinyu did not expect Li Yuan to be so humble, and the last doubt in his heart was dispelled. That's because you and 1111 supervise and promote each other, and your grades will improve. Auntie is very satisfied. You both were admitted to Daxia University together. Bai Tiankai was very embarrassed when he listened. How could a high school student fall in love so well? If we can really supervise and promote each other and improve our grades, schools should promote puppy love. When Bai Wuxi saw that Li Yuan was chatting enthusiastically with her mother, she felt relieved a lot. Mom, stop standing at the door, let's go inside. Yes, come in. Yang Jinyu chuckled, glanced at the gift in Bai Wuxi's hand. When I saw the familiar logo, the sentence LV blurted out. Bai Wuxi looked at Yang Jinyu in confusion, Mom, what is the LV you are talking about? Yang Jinyu smiled without explaining. If Li Yuan hadn't been around, she would have wanted to take the LV bag from her daughter's hand immediately. See what's inside. After entering the room, Li Yuan put Maotai and Huazi on the ground casually and winked at Bai Wuxi. Seeing this, Bai Wuxi handed the gift in his hand to Yang Jinyu with a smile. Mom, Dad, this is a gift from Li Yuan to you. I hope you like it. Yang Jinyu had long wanted to see what kind of gift Li Yuan had bought, but as an elder, she still suppressed her curiosity and solemnly declined. Li Yuan, you have just entered college, don't spend money carelessly. Your uncle and I have accepted your kindness. You can take the gift back and return it. When Baiwixi heard that her mother was unwilling to accept it, she became anxious and quickly grabbed Yang Jinyu's arm. Mom, this is Li Yuan's idea, just accept it. Yang Jinyu looked helplessly at her silly daughter. My mother was just being polite. How could she not accept it? Isn't this a slap in the face of my good son-in-law? Li Yuan came over, took the gift from Baiwixi, opened the package, and took out the bag for Yang Jinyu. Auntie, it's our first time meeting you and I don't know what you like. This is the bag I chose. Li Yuan directly thrust the bag into Yang Jinyu's hands. Yang Jinyu just took one look and fell in love with this bag. She was born in a big city and paid special attention to these. She naturally has a high level of discernment and knows these luxury brands. Xiao Yuan, this bag is too valuable, Auntie can't accept it. Yang Jinyu refused, but did not let go of his hand. Li Yuan understood in his heart and said with a smile, Aunt Yang, I specially selected this bag for you. It fits your temperament very well. Besides, this is not an expensive gift. Just accept it. Yang Jinyu hesitated to speak, looking at Li Yuan even happier than looking at Tianqi, and the smile on his face could no longer be hidden. Then, Auntie took the liberty to accept it. She is not allowed to give such an expensive gift next time. Seeing that Yang Jinyu mentioned expensiveness many times, Baiwixi asked in confusion, Mom, Li Yuan, is this bag expensive? Ahem, just so. Li Yuan coughed lightly and handed another bag to Baiwixi. Xiao Bai, this bag is for you, I hope you like it. Seeing that she also had a gift, Baiwixi took it with a smile, looked at the bag carefully, opened the transparent plastic bag outside, and suddenly saw an invoice. Baiwixi said curiously, Hey, what is this? There is a price on it. Original price is 16,800 yuan, 10% off, actual payment is 15,120 yuan. Baiwixi's hands trembled, her eyes widened, staring at the invoice in her hand, and looked at Li Yuan in disbelief. Li Yuan, is this bag worth 15,120 yuan? This is too expensive, isn't it just a bag? Yang Jinyu couldn't help but shook her head when she heard her daughter's exclamation. Her daughter had just entered college, so it was normal for her to not understand this. This is a luxury product, can it be inexpensive? She was even more curious about how much her bag cost. It was probably not cheap. Her eyes turned softer when she looked at Li Yuan. Li Yuan glanced at Baiwixi who was exclaiming, and thought to himself, good help. Next, let me show you something more shocking. An LV bag can get the cheap mother-in-law, and it depends on whether the Rolex gold watch can get the cheap father-in-law. Chapter 149 The Lively Girls' Dormitory, Zhong Tingyu's Suspicion. Before Li Yuan spoke, the stunned Baiwixi looked at the Rolex watch in Li Yuan's hand and asked curiously. Li Yuan, is this gift a watch? For my dad. Bai Tiankai's face, which had been tense all the time, suddenly became more expectant when he heard that there was also a gift for him, and it was a watch. In his school, the principal often wore a watch, which was said to be given to him by his son-in-law. He often showed off invisibly, and even couldn't bear to take it off when taking a bath. It was said to be a Rolex worth tens of thousands of yuan, which made other male teachers envious. Men of their generation all liked to wear watches to show their status. Li Yuan opened the exquisite packaging box, which contained an exquisite small box with the Rolex logo engraved on it. It was simple but not without atmosphere. The packaging looked very high-end. There were also Rolex Company's appraisal certificate and related bills with the box. Li Yuan looked at his father-in-law who looked a bit like Baiwixi with a little nervousness. The cheap mother-in-law had been dealt with, but the father-in-law in front of him, who didn't say a word when he met her and had a serious face, really made him feel a little nervous. Baiwixi told him that her father loved her very much. Uncle Bai, I don't know what you like. This is a watch. It's a little new idea of mine. Please accept it. Bai Tiankai looked at the exquisite box that Li Yuan handed over with a serious expression, glanced at the logo on the box, and was shocked. He blurted out with a look of shock on his face. Rolex. Then, he waved his hand and refused. Xiao Li, this watch is too expensive. I can't accept it no matter what. Li Yuan was a little embarrassed and tried to be humble, but Bai Tiankai was very determined and refused to accept it. He looked at Bai Wuxi for help, hoping that Xiao Bai would help him. Bai Wuxi smiled, hugged Bai Tiankai's arm, and said coquettishly, Dad, this is a little gift from Li Yuan, just accept it. Please. The baby's daughter's coquetry still worked. Bai Tiankai was still a little hesitant in his heart. He was not like Yang Jinyu, who considered more. He knew that Rolex watches cost tens of thousands of yuan. If he accepted such an expensive gift from his daughter's boyfriend, will his daughter be able to hold her head up in front of Li Yuan in the future? Although he wanted his daughter to find a boyfriend who was better in all aspects, he never wanted his daughter to become a slave to money and live an unhappy life. In that case, he would rather his daughter find someone from an ordinary family. With her daughter's beauty and education, she can definitely find a civil servant whose parents are both in the system and whose family is not bad in her hometown. Although she is not rich, she has no worries about food and clothing. Not only can she know her background and details, but she is also close to home, and she and her husband can take care of her more and stay with her. Generally speaking, the talents selected by the state have some guarantee of character. Bai Tiankai still refused firmly and glanced at Li Yuan. He was still very satisfied with Li Yuan in his heart. Xiao Li, the gift is too expensive. You can use it yourself or return it. It's not easy for you to make money by writing books. You don't need to waste it on these extra things. Li Yuan was so embarrassed that he could pick his feet. He never thought that such an expensive gift would not be given away. Bai Wuxi saw that her coquetry didn't work, and she was anxious. She was afraid that Li Yuan would misunderstand that she was dissatisfied with him, and tears rolled in her eyes. Dad, I beg you. Yang Jinyu was speechless watching from the side, glaring at Bai Tiankai. After 20 years of marriage, she knew his temper, which was that kind of noble character. Xiao Yuan, don't mind it, your uncle has this bad temper. After saying that, she took the initiative to reach out and take the gift from Li Yuan. I'll accept it for him first. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 210. During the day, Chi Chi opened his mouth to say something, but Yang Jinyu gave him a sharp look. He could only shut up obediently. Li Yuan smiled. All he had to do was give away the gifts and have some drinks with his father-in-law later. The Hungmen banquet would be settled. Uncle Bai, Aunt Yang, it's already dinner time. Let's go have dinner. I have already reserved a room at the hotel. Bai Wuxi quickly echoed, okay, I'm already hungry. Dad, Mom, let's go have dinner. Yang Jinyu looked at Li Yuan and her daughter together, and a word suddenly came to her mind, the husband sings and the wife follows. Okay, Lao Bai, stop standing there and go eat. We all said during the day, and now it's already 6:30 in the evening. It's indeed time to eat. Seeing this, Li Yuan quickly opened the box of Maotai, took out 4 bottles, and held it in his hand. Uncle Bai, Aunt Yang, the place to eat is 5 or 6 miles away from here. Let's drive there. That's okay, 1111 can drive at night. Yang Jinyu smiled and placed the gifts that Li Yuan gave to her and Bai Tiankai on the sofa. While Li Yuan was cleaning up, she curiously glanced at the invoice for the bag given to her. Original price is 19,800 yuan, 10% off, actual payment is 17,820 yuan. Yang Jinyu's body trembled, with a smile on her face, and she murmured in her heart, Li Yuan is really generous. He bought me a bag worth nearly 20,000 yuan. When I return to my parents' home in the future, I will finally have a bag I can afford. The gift for Lao Bai is a Rolex watch, which is also a luxury brand. Look how much this watch costs. It must be tens of thousands. Yang Jinyu looked at the invoice and the numbers on it, his eyes widened. There are 3 zeros after 148. This watch is worth 148,000. It is too expensive. A silly boy like Li Yuan is not willing to buy such an expensive thing. Yang Jinyu considered herself to be from a big city and had seen some things in the world, but she was also shocked by Li Yuan's generosity. Forget it, give her a bag worth 10,000 to 20,000 yuan, but give her husband a watch worth 148,000 yuan. At this price, you can buy a car. The combined salary of the couple would have to work for many years to save. Arrive. Yang Jinyu looked at Li Yuan, who was talking and laughing with her daughter. She poked Tianqi with her arm with trembling hands. Old Bai, look at this. Bai Tiankai took it over curiously, looked at the numbers on it, rubbed his eyes, lowered his voice, and exclaimed. This Rolex watch costs 148,000 yuan. It's too expensive. I thought it was tens of thousands, so I agreed to accept it. But it costs more than 100,000, just buy a watch. With this money, I can buy a car. It's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. Yang Jinyu nodded and opened the box. Inside, a golden Rolex watch was lying inside, exuding charming colors. Yang Jinyu said in a low voice, this is like a gold watch. Lao Bai, I don't think we can accept it. It's too expensive. How can anyone accept a gift of more than 100,000 yuan from a daughter's boyfriend? In our hometown in the county, the wedding gift for a daughter is even more than the gift, just over 100,000. Lao Bai, what do you think? Needless to say, return it to Li Yuan, it's too valuable. Bai Tiankai had mixed feelings in his heart and his eyes were very complicated. He called out to Li Yuan, who was carrying Mao Tai and was about to go out. Li Yuan, wait a moment. Li Yuan turned around in confusion. Uncle Bai, what's wrong? Bai Tiankai came over, handed the watch to Li Yuan, and said seriously, Xiao Li, this watch is really too valuable, we can't accept it. As for your wishes, I accept them. Don't have any worries in your heart. Li Yuan didn't answer, but directly reached out to hold Bai Wuxi and held her in his arms. Bai Wuxi was startled by Li Yuan's sudden movement, and her face immediately turned crimson. She didn't expect that Li Yuan would be so bold. In front of her parents, he would dare to take her hand and hug her. She wanted to break away, but was stopped by him. Li Yuan held it tightly. Bai Tiankai raised his eyebrows and opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but he didn't speak. I heard Li Yuan speak sincerely, Uncle Bai, Aunt Yang, Xiao Bai is my girlfriend. We have known each other for more than 3 years. If you want me to be with Xiao Bai, please accept it. This is my first official meeting with my uncle and aunt, and my first time giving gifts. Bai Wuxi also acted coquettishly, yes, Mom and Dad, just accept it and give Li Yuan some face. Tianqi still wanted to say something, but Yang Jinyu pinched his waist from behind and stared at Li Yuan with a kind smile. Seeing that what he said was sincere, she nodded. Xiao Yuan, your uncle and I naturally support you and 1111 being together, and hope that you two can live happily ever after. Then we took the liberty to accept this gift. After hearing this, Li Yuan immediately restored his smile. Uncle Bai, Aunt Yang, we are all a family, there is no need to be so polite. Mine is also Xiao Bai's, so I should treat you with filial piety. Really, Xiao Bai? Yeah, Bai Wuxi stared at Li Yuan with loving eyes and nodded fiercely. At this moment, she was extremely moved. On the other side, after saying goodbye to Li Yuan, Zhong Tingyu drove a Porsche 911 and slowly drove into Daxia University. Because it was the National Day holiday, there were many fewer people in the school than usual. When this brand new Porsche 911 sports car drove into the campus, it immediately caused a huge sensation. Almost every student couldn't help but take a few more glances, and some students even secretly took photos with their mobile phones. Even in Shanghai, there are very few people who can afford a Porsche sports car. This sports car is so beautiful, a bit like a Porsche 911. Through the car window, I seem to see that the driver is a big beauty. I saw it too, and it looks familiar. It looks like the girl from the School of Finance who was confessed to downstairs in Miwan last night. Really, is this girl so rich? She can drive a Porsche sports car. My God, she is simply a perfect goddess, super white, rich and beautiful. She should be the school beauty of the School of Finance who was confessed to last night. She is a freshman this year, but it seems that she has a boyfriend. She was taken away by her boyfriend last night. She appeared again today and drove a Porsche. Old Zoo, don't think about it, just look at it. This level of school beauty is not something that ordinary people like us can have. Just like the Porsche she drives, she didn't have it when she was born, and she probably won't have it in this life. I know, although I say that, I really envy her. As a freshman, I am still saving money to buy a pair of Nike basketball shoes, but she can drive a Porsche worth millions. Rich people finally get married, and poor people see it with their own eyes. My heart is broken. Broken shit, it doesn't belong to you in the first place. While the freshman girl just entered the school, find a girlfriend first. Because Zhong Tingyu drove very slowly, whenever she passed someone, there would be constant discussions. At this time, Ding Shanshan and Su Tingro happened to be walking together on campus. The other two roommates, Wang Lisha and Den Mikey, had already gone out to play. Ding Shanshan suddenly asked, Tingro, are you going to go out for fun during the National Day holiday? Su Tingro shook her head, forget it, just wander around the magic city and get familiar with the surrounding environment. Shanshan, what about you? Are you going to go out for fun? Shasha and Mikey, they are going to go to Suzhou City to take a look at Suzhou City Gardens, Humble Administrator's Garden and so on. They should have got in the car by now. Ding Shanshan shrugged her nose and sighed helplessly, alas, I'm still hesitating. It costs a lot of money to go out. I just bought a skirt and a set of skincare products a few days ago. I'm a little tight on money recently. I'll have to eat dirt this month. Speaking of which, I suddenly envy Wuxi. She drives a sports car worth hundreds of thousands of yuan. She should not lack pocket money. Although Li Yuan is a scumbag, he is really good to her and will definitely not let him or her suffer. Su Tingro also agreed with it. They discussed it for a long time in the dormitory last night and this morning. Especially after Bai Wuxi posted a photo of the BMW Z4 supercar that Li Yuan bought, their mentality changed unconsciously. They were all freshmen who had just enrolled, and their family conditions were similar. As a result, in the blink of an eye, while you were still saving money to buy clothes and cosmetics, your roommate had already driven a $1 million luxury car. It would be strange if this mentality did not change. Su Tingro was thinking about it, and suddenly asked curiously, Shanshan, guess, will Li Yuan buy Tingyu a sports car today? Ding Shanshan stared, and answered uncertainly, it shouldn't be, Li Yuan has only been writing novels for more than 3 months. Even if he makes 1 million a month, where does he get so much money to buy a house and a car? Su Tingro smiled, that's not necessarily true. Only Li Yuan knows how much money he makes from writing books. Maybe it's several million a month. Since he dares to play both sides, he should be fair to Tingyu and Wuxi. What Wuxi has, Tingyu should also have. Didn't you say this morning that Tingyu has also been looking at cars these 2 days? Maybe she bought one today. Ding Shanshan smiled and replied, Ting Ro, you may be right. You will know when Tingyu comes back. As soon as the two arrived downstairs of the dormitory, they suddenly saw that many people were secretly taking pictures around a sports car, and various exclamations and envy were heard from time to time. The two people quickly gathered around and saw a white Porsche sports car parked downstairs of the dormitory building. The streamlined body and handsome tail lights were particularly eye-catching. Ding Shanshan exclaimed, Wow, this sports car looks like a Porsche. Su Tingro also stared at the car intently. After hearing Ding Shanshan's exclamation, she asked in confusion, Shanshan, do you know this car? Ding Shanshan explained excitedly, Tingro, didn't you see the BMW Z4 sports car that was not released this morning? Then I searched for various sports cars on the internet and learned about some very famous luxury car brands, such as Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini, etc. The logo of this sports car is Porsche, a luxury car that is more expensive than BMW. This sports car looks a bit like the Porsche 911 circulated on the internet, and the minimum price is 1 or 2 million. Strange, when did our school have a Porsche sports car?